Colin, nice to see you again, looking well and fit. Shame that you didn't put a jacket on, but that looks good.
We're working gear up.
It's working gear. Well, the working gear. I've just come back from work as well. Colin, we'll start off. After 2 years apprenticeship at the Borough, you signed full time. What was the money like then, Col?
Well, the first year I started was the first year of the old YTS scheme, and I got 25 quid a week. To be fair, I had my board and lodgings up at the Meadhurst in Linthorpe, which was a wonderful place with Walter and Vi looking after us all the lads who weren't from Middlesbrough. We all lived in the digs in the one place in the Meadhurst at Linthorpe. And we got 25 quid a week. You know, we had our bed and board free, paid for by the club, which was part and parcel of it. But I did a year of that, and because the YTS scheme was only a year, luckily for me, my youth team manager when I came in the club was Willie Madron.
Oh, Willie Madron.
And then Willie got the manager's job, and as I say, luckily for me, and I think a lot of it is down to luck in this game. Willie saw something in me because I think at the time.
I think you had a bit more than that.
I was only, but I was small. I think I was about 5'4" when I joined, and then I sprouted up as a tall, skinny thing And Willie just saw something in me, and he always said he saw something similar in me to what he'd seen in himself, a young defender or a young midfield player, as I was at that time. Actually, I was a midfield player, and he just saw something in me, thought I could play sweeper. Yeah. And from there on in, he offered me my first pro contract. He gave me 50 quid a week, and I actually got less than I did when I was an apprentice because I had to start paying tax. So after paying tax and then having to give my mum bed and board when I went home, instead of living in the Meadhurst, I was worse off.
Oh, your mum must have been better off as well. Like, I mean, if you're giving her a few quid instead of the landlady. But things didn't change actually, you know, because when I was playing, the lads who'd come over as yourself as apprentice, they were living in that Meadhurst. So that's going back a few years.
It is. I mean, I think I've got to be perfectly honest. I think the worst thing, or one of the worst things that happened to this club is obviously when we went into liquidation, it had to go, but never to kind of re-establish it, because it's a focal point for all the lads who had to travel. You know, the lads that we have now have all got different digs in different places. But I thought the Meadhurst was a wonderful place. We lived together, we ate together, we grew up together, you know, as a group of players, and there was, you know, a good bond with that group. And I don't know how many football clubs have that kind of thing now, but I think it would be something for us to think about in the future, because when you get players, you obviously get a lot of young players that now come from abroad. Now, they either go into a house, or they go into a hotel, or they go into digs somewhere, and they isolated. And I think a great thing for our club to think about in the future is a Meadhurst type place where all the apprentices, trialists, young foreign players all go together and they get integrated into the club a lot quicker. I think, you know, the club's a poorer thing without something like the Meadhurst.
Yes. And also, you were at Middlesbrough for how many years before you moved to Millwall?
7 years, yes. The first 7 years, like you say, I had a year as an apprentice, and then 6 years as a pro. And I left in the summer of '91, the summer I got married.
So that included the liquidation years, was it?
I mean,
how did that affect you?
Well, literally the summer of the May, from the January to the May, I'd just getting into the first team, and I'd played a dozen games, so I didn't have a football career. Yeah. You know, when the liquidation happened, I thought my career, that was just as I thought I was just on the first rung going up. I thought it was over. Yeah. So obviously I was scared, very scared. Yeah. I didn't get approached by clubs in the summer asking me to go here, there, and everywhere. So really, for me, when the club actually, you know, we managed to get the consortium together, it was a lifeline for somebody like me. I know some players chose to go out and crack on with their careers, which I had no problem with, but I didn't have that option. So really, for me, when the consortium got together, it was an absolute lifeline. And Bruce Rioch, who had a young team, and we literally had 15 players to pick from. And all Bruce did is went through the team logically, and I ended up playing at left back because it was either left back or central midfield. Well, Gary Gill was a better central midfield player than I was, so I ended up playing left back, and that's how we managed. Yeah. But it was, despite everything else, you know, the club was close to going, and that's what we should remember. I always say that to people. We should remember this club was very close to not being here.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're talking 20 years later, but that group of players that we had. I think the club got lucky. I think Bruce got lucky. We were a good, honest, fairly talented bunch of kids, and we might have been in the equivalent of the second division as it is now. But you know, quickly we established ourselves up a couple of divisions, and as I say, I think from that period on, I think, you know, the 20 odd years that's gone beyond that, 22 years, I think I still look back and think we're all lucky to be here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you'd established yourself in that time. And then did Millwall come after you, or did the Borough want the money?
Well, no, I mean, you know,
you?
football careers are funny things, Al, you know what I mean?
We all
didn't have the highs that you had and just going straight and play for your country, you know what I mean? No, what happened, I mean, I've told the story before, what happened to me is I had a very quick rise from, got in the first team, we had a couple of promotions, I got into the England under-21 team, and then I got a nasty injury. I broke my foot, and I struggled with it for probably 10 months of one season, the season that we got up into the Premiership as it is now. I struggled with it for probably 6 months of that season. Took painkillers, took injections to keep playing. But the season following that, I struggled. I struggled badly. My form dipped. I wasn't playing well. And yes, I did get sold for money, but by the same token, you know, I've said many times, my career had flattened out. I wasn't going up still. I'd levelled off. And I saw it tailing off. So I had an opportunity to move, and I thought, I'd just been married to my wife Julie. I saw it as an opportunity to challenge myself again. Bruce Rioch obviously had taken up the manager's job at Millwall. So I thought, why not? Lenny Lawrence had just come in here as the manager, and I just thought, if I don't do it now, I'll probably never do it, and my career will end up, and I'll end up, you know, no disrespect to anyone playing the lower leagues, but I'll end up playing the lower leagues, and I thought I was better than that, so I challenged myself again.
Yeah, well, that's nice, because, you know, you were just running yourself down a little bit then, when really you should have been upping yourself, because you left for 1.7 million, didn't you?
Not from here, no. I left.
When you went to Millwall, I mean. You know,
when I left Middlesbrough, I went for
300,000 at Middlesbrough.
Yeah, so I left here for 300 grand. Bruce paid the money, and I'd only been at Millwall, I don't know, probably 6-7 months, and Bruce left.
Yeah.
Mick McCarthy took the manager's job up, and again, you talk about stages and stages in your life and your football career. Mick McCarthy said to me, because Mick was a cracking centre half, and Mick said, I think you can play centre half. And I wind the clock back to when Willie saw me as a kid, 17, 18, saying, I think you could play as a sweeper centre half. Mick said exactly the same thing. He said, you know, you're decent on the ball, you're not slow, he said you can attack the ball, you're not the biggest, but you read things fairly well. So Mick said, I'm going to play a centre half. He said, there is no option, I'm going to play a centre half. And again, it worked fantastically well. And within a year, I moved to Nottingham Forest, and I moved for 1.75 million. So going from my career going levelling and going down, all of a sudden I was back up on the up. And you know, I was at Nottingham Forest 5 years, managed to reach the heights of playing for my country. So I was, you know, things went very well.
I can remember having Brian Clough as a guest, you know, for one of the games, and he said to me that he didn't sign you soon enough. He should have signed you earlier. And what was the reason for that, Colin?
Money, I think. I think Cloughie just basically said he didn't think I was worth the 2 million quid they wanted from me. But I did say to the lads when I went to Forest that it was only, you know, the old transfer deadline was kind of March time, and he tried to sign me before the old transfer deadline, and as I say, he said I'm not paying that for him. And I said, well, fair enough, you know. There was myself and Stan Collymore at the time, but Nottingham Forest were really, they were on a real low. And Cloughie retired in that summer, so and that was the one regret. I never got, even if it had been for 3 months, I'd have loved to have played for him, you know, just to have been given the opportunity to hear them words of wisdom that all the other players have had down the years. But it didn't happen. I wished it had even for 3 months, but, you know, luckily, as I say, the 5 years I had at Forest were, on the whole, pretty successful.
Oh, that was good.